"You can't handle me, just go," the giant bride screamed. But the cowboy said, "You're coming with me." The morning air in the small town felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Clara stood inside the old wooden house near the edge of the dirt road, staring at her reflection in a small mirror that had a crack running down the middle. The dress hanging on her body looked simple, white and plain, but to her it felt like a costume she was not meant to wear. Her hands were strong and rough from years of work, and she tried to smooth the fabric, but it only reminded her of how different she felt from the other women in town. Outside, people were already gathering near the open field where the wedding was supposed to take place. She could hear their voices, soft but full of judgment. Some of them had always looked at her as if she did not fit into the shape of their quiet, careful world. Clara had grown tall and strong from working on farms, lifting heavy tools, and helping her family survive when times were hard. She did not learn how to sit still and smile gently. She learned how to stand firm and keep moving forward. Her mother had brushed her hair earlier that morning and tried to hide her worry behind a gentle smile. "Today is a new start," she had said, but Clara could hear the doubt behind the words. Clara had nodded, but inside her heart felt like it was being pulled in two directions. One part of her wanted to run far away from the eyes that always watched her, always measured her. The other part wanted to believe that this day could change her life for the better. As the sun rose higher, the sound of hoofbeats came from the road. A lone rider approached, dust following behind him like a cloud. His name was Ethan, a cowboy who worked on ranches across the wide land. He did not stay in one place for long. He believed the road was his true home. That morning he had only planned to pass through town, maybe stop for water and food before moving on again. But when he saw the crowd gathered in the field, something made him slow his horse. He noticed the way people stood in small groups, whispering and pointing toward the house where Clara waited. Their faces were full of curiosity and quiet laughter, not kindness. Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest. He tied his horse to a post and walked closer, pretending he was just another traveler interested in the event. When Clara finally stepped outside, the talking stopped for a moment. The sun touched her face, and she blinked against the light. She felt the weight of every eye on her. Her dress moved in the soft wind, and she wished she could disappear into it, like a shadow fading into the ground. She walked toward the field where her future waited. Her steps were slow, and her heart beat loud in her ears. The man she was supposed to marry stood near the simple wooden table that served as an altar. He looked nervous, but he did not step forward to meet her. He only waited, like he was unsure himself. Ethan stood at the edge of the crowd, watching. He did not know why he cared. He had seen many towns, many people, and many moments that were not his to hold. But something about Clara's eyes caught him. They were not full of joy. They were full of fear, like a bird trapped in a cage it did not choose. The words of the ceremony began, but Clara barely heard them. The sound of the wind, the beating of her heart, and the whispers of the town mixed together in her mind. Her thoughts went back to all the time she had been told she was too much, too tall, too strong, too loud, not gentle enough, not soft enough. She felt her chest tighten. The air around her seemed to shrink. Suddenly, she could not breathe the same way. Her hands began to shake. "I can't," she whispered. But no one heard. The person leading the ceremony asked if anyone had something to say, and for a moment, the silence was thick and heavy. Clara felt like the world was waiting for her to make a move she did not know how to make. Without another word, she turned and ran. The crowd gasped. Some people called her name, Others laughed in shock. Her dress caught on the tall grass as she ran toward the old barn at the edge of town. Tears blurred her vision, and she did not look back. Ethan reacted before he even thought about it. He pushed through the crowd and followed her, his boots hitting the dirt hard. Did not know why he was chasing a woman he had never met, but something inside him told him this moment mattered. The barn door was half open, hanging loose on its hinges. Clara pushed it wider and stumbled inside. The smell of hay and old wood filled the air. She leaned against a beam, her body shaking, and finally let herself cry. She heard footsteps behind her and turned, fear flashing in her eyes. Ethan stopped a few steps away, holding his hands up to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said softly. His voice was calm, like the quiet before a storm breaks into rain instead of thunder. Clara wiped her face with her sleeve.
"You should go back. This is not your problem," she said.
Her voice was strong, but it cracked at the end. "Maybe it is," Ethan replied. "I saw the way you looked out there, like you were being pushed into something you didn't choose." Clara laughed bitterly. "Everyone thinks they know what's best for me. They think because I'm strong, I don't feel things the same way." Ethan took a step closer, careful not to scare her. Being strong doesn't mean you don't feel. Sometimes it means you feel more and still keep standing. The words surprised her. She had not heard anyone speak to her like that before. She looked at him more closely now. His clothes were worn from travel, and dust clung to his boots, but his eyes were steady and kind. He did not look at her like she was a problem to solve. He looked at her like she was a person. "I don't even know your name," she said quietly. "Ethan," he replied. "And you are?" "Clara." They stood there in the quiet barn, the noise of the town far away now. For the first time that day, Clara felt like she could breathe again. Ethan leaned against a wooden post. "You don't have to explain anything to me," he said. "But if you want to talk, I can listen. I've been on the road a long time. Listening is something I've gotten good at." Clara hesitated, then began to speak. She told him about growing up on a small farm, about losing her father young, about learning to work twice as hard to help her family survive. She told him how the town saw her as different, how they spoke about her when they thought she could not hear. Ethan listened without interrupting. He did not judge or try to fix her story. He just let her tell it. When she finished, the silence between them felt different. It was not heavy anymore. It was calm. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now," Clara admitted. "If I go back, they will talk. If I leave, they will talk even more." "They're going to talk no matter what," Ethan said gently. "The only question is, what do you want for yourself?" Clara looked down at her hands. "I want to feel like I belong somewhere." Ethan nodded. "I've been looking for that too," he said. "I thought moving from place to place would help, but sometimes all it does is remind you that you're alone." The barn door creaked as the wind pushed against it. The sun sent long lines of light across the dusty floor. Clara took a deep breath. "I don't know you," she said, "but right now, you're the only one who feels real to me." Ethan smiled slightly. "Maybe that's enough for now." Outside, the town waited, full of questions and judgment. Inside the old barn, two strangers stood at the edge of a choice that would change both of their lives. Clara looked toward the door, then back at Ethan. Her heart was still afraid, but it was also awake in a way it had not been before. "I don't want to go back there," she said. Ethan did not answer right away. He thought about the open road, his horse waiting, and the life he had always chosen. Then he thought about the woman standing in front of him, brave enough to run from a future she did not want. "You don't have to," he finally said. "You don't have to decide everything today. Sometimes the first step is just stepping away from what hurts." Clara felt tears rise again, but this time they were not only from fear. They were from relief. She took a small step toward him, not in trust, but in hope. The sun was already sliding down the sky when Clara and Ethan stepped out of the old barn. The light turned the dusty road into a soft gold color, and the long shadows of the fence posts stretched across the ground like quiet guards. The town was still in the distance, and Clara could hear faint voices carrying on the wind. She knew they were talking about her. They always did. Ethan walked a few steps ahead, then slowed down so Clara could stay beside him. He did not rush her. He did not tell her where to go. That made her feel strange in a good way. For once, no one was pulling her forward or pushing her back. "Do you have somewhere you want to be tonight?" Ethan asked. Clara thought about her small house near the edge of town. She thought about her mother sitting by the window, waiting, worried. Her chest tightened. "I don't think I can go home yet," she said. "Not today." Ethan nodded like he understood. "There's a creek not far from here. I usually stop there when I pass through. It's quiet. We can sit for a bit, if you want." Clara agreed. The word quiet felt like something she needed more than anything else. They walked along a narrow path through tall grass and small trees. Birds flew up when they passed, their wings beating the air. The world felt bigger here, wider than the small town that always seemed to close in on her. When they reached the creek, Clara stopped. The water moved slowly over smooth stones, making a soft sound that felt like a gentle breath. Ethan tied his horse to a tree and sat on a flat rock near the water. Clara stayed standing for a moment, then slowly lowered herself onto another rock. The cool air touched her face, and she closed her eyes for a second. "I used to come to places like this when I was a kid," she said.
When things got too loud at home, Ethan looked at her. What made them loud? Clara took a deep breath.
"My father passed away when I was young. After that, everything changed. My mother worked all the time. I worked all the time. There wasn't room for being soft. There was only room for surviving." Ethan nodded slowly. "I know that feeling." She looked at him. "What about you? Why are you always on the road?" He stared at the moving water for a moment before answering. "I grew up on a big ranch. Lots of people, lots of noise. When I was old enough, I thought leaving would make me free. I thought if I kept moving, I wouldn't have to feel tied to anything or anyone." "Did it work?" Clara asked. Ethan smiled a little, but it did not reach his eyes. "Sometimes. But sometimes it just makes you feel like you don't belong anywhere." The words hit Clara deep. She wrapped her arms around herself. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the water and the wind. It felt easy, like they did not have to fill every moment with talking. Finally, Clara spoke again. "Back there in the town, they look at me like I'm a problem. Like I don't fit into the picture they want." Ethan turned toward her. "I didn't see a problem. I saw someone who was hurting." Clara swallowed. "Most people don't look that close." Ethan picked up a small stone and tossed it into the creek. It skipped once, then sank. "Maybe most people are too busy thinking about themselves." Clara laughed softly. It was the first real laugh she had let out all day. As the sky grew darker, Ethan took out a small pack from his saddle and offered her some bread and dried meat. Clara hesitated, then accepted. The simple food tasted better than anything she could remember. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," he replied. "Travel teaches you to share."
You never know when you'll be the one who needs it. They talked about small things then.
About the animals Clara used to care for on the farm. About the towns Ethan had passed through. About the wide fields, the mountains, and the places where the stars looked close enough to touch. Clara listened like she was hearing stories from another world. The idea of leaving, of seeing something beyond the same roads and faces, felt both scary and exciting. "What would you do?" Ethan asked. "If you could go anywhere?" Clara thought for a long time. "I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I've always done what was needed, what was expected." "Maybe it's time to think about what you want," he said gently. The word "want" felt strange on her tongue. The sound of footsteps on the path made them both turn. A man from the town stood a short distance away. His face was tight with worry. "Clara," he said, "your mother is looking for you. The whole town is talking. They don't understand what happened." Clara stood up slowly. Her heart began to beat faster again. "I need a little more time," she said. The man shook his head. "You can't just walk away from this." Ethan stepped forward. "She's not walking away. She's taking a moment to breathe." The man looked at Ethan, then back at Clara. "People are saying things. They're making stories." Clara felt her shoulders tense. "They always do," she said quietly. The man sighed and turned back toward the town. "Your mother is worried," he said one last time before leaving. Clara watched him go. Her chest felt heavy again. Ethan placed a hand on the back of his horse. "You don't have to decide anything right now," he said. "But you should know, running away doesn't always make things easier. Sometimes it just changes the kind of hard you face." Clara nodded. "I know."
I don't want to go back to being the same person. Ethan looked at her carefully.
"You don't have to be. You can grow without leaving everything behind. Or you can leave and find something new. Both take courage." Clara stared at the darkening sky. Stars were starting to appear, small and bright. "Do you ever get tired of being brave?" she asked. Ethan smiled softly. "All the time. But I get more tired of staying in places where I don't feel alive." The words stayed with her. They walked back toward the edge of town together. The lights in the windows glowed like small eyes watching them return. When they reached the road that split toward Clara's home and the open land beyond, they stopped. "This is where I turn," Clara said. Ethan nodded. "I'll be at the small camp near the hills tonight, if you want to talk more."
"You know where to find me." Clara hesitated. "Thank you."
"For not treating me like something to fix." Ethan tipped his hat slightly. "You're not broken." She watched him walk away, his figure slowly blending into the dark. As Clara headed toward her house, her mind was full. The town felt the same, but she felt different. Like something inside her had shifted, even if she did not fully understand it yet. Her mother opened the door before she could knock. Relief washed over her mother's face, and she pulled Clara into a tight hug.
"I was so worried," her mother said. "I know," Clara replied softly.
"I'm sorry." They sat together at the small table in the kitchen. Clara told her mother about the barn, the creek, and the cowboy who listened instead of judged. Her mother listened carefully. "Sometimes," she said, "the people who change us most are the ones we least expect." That night, Clara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The sound of the town was quiet now, but her thoughts were loud. She thought about the open road, about the creek, about Ethan's steady eyes and calm voice. For the first time in her life, She did not only think about what she had to do, she thought about what she might become. Morning came slowly, like it did not want to wake the town too fast. A pale light touched the rooftops and fences, and a soft wind moved through the tall grass near Clara's house. She stood by the window, looking out at the empty road, thinking about the night before. The memory of the creek, the stars, and Ethan's quiet voice stayed with her like a warm blanket she did not want to let go of. Her mother was already awake, moving around the small kitchen. The sound of cups and plates filled the air. "You didn't sleep much," her mother said gently when Clara walked in. Clara shook her head. "My mind wouldn't rest." Her mother studied her face. "Is it about him?"
The cowboy?
Clara paused.
Yes.
"And everything else." Her mother nodded slowly. "Change can be louder than any town gossip, but sometimes it's the right kind of noise." Clara smiled a little at that. Later that morning, Clara stepped outside to help with chores. The town felt different now. People did not hide their looks anymore. Some stared, some whispered. A few shook their heads as if they already knew how her story would end. Clara kept her eyes forward, but every word she heard felt like a small stone hitting her back. Down the road, Ethan was breaking down his camp near the hills. He had planned to leave early, like he always did. That was his way. But his hands moved slower than usual. His thoughts kept drifting back to Clara. He told himself it was just another town, another person he would soon forget. But something inside him knew that was not true. He saddled his horse and rode toward the town. He did not have a clear reason. He just felt like he needed to see Clara again. When he reached the edge of town, he noticed a group of people standing near the general store. Their voices were sharp and fast. Clara stood a few steps away from them, holding a basket of supplies. Her shoulders were stiff. Ethan slowed his horse and listened. "She thinks she's better than us now," one woman said. "Running off with a stranger," a man added. "What kind of example is that?" Clara's face turned red. "I didn't run off with anyone," she said. "I just needed space." "Well, this is a small town," the woman replied. "We don't have much room for secrets." Ethan stepped down from his horse. "Sounds like you don't have much room for kindness either," he said. The group turned toward him, surprised. "This doesn't concern you," the man said.
"Maybe it does," Ethan replied. "When I see someone being treated unfairly, I think it concerns anyone with a heart."
Clara looked at him, a mix of relief and worry in her eyes. The woman crossed her arms. "We're just looking out for her." Ethan shook his head. "No, you're looking at her, not out for her. There's a difference." The group muttered among themselves and slowly began to break apart. Some walked away, others stayed for a moment, then followed. Clara let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. "You didn't have to do that," she said.
Yes, I did, Ethan replied.
No one should stand alone like that. They walked down the road together. The town felt quieter, but not peaceful. Clara stopped near the fence that marked the edge of the open fields. "This is what it's like here," she said. "People remember every mistake, every strange choice." Ethan leaned against the fence. "Every place has its walls. Some are just harder to see." Clara looked at the wide land beyond the fence. The grass moved like waves in the wind. "Do you ever regret leaving?" she asked. Ethan thought for a moment. "Sometimes. There are days when I wish I had stayed somewhere long enough to grow roots. But then I remember why I left. I wanted to find a place that felt like mine." Clara nodded. "I don't know if this place ever felt like mine." They stood in silence again, comfortable but full of thoughts.
Later that day, Clara's mother asked her to go to the market.
Clara hesitated but agreed. Ethan walked with her, staying a few steps back at first, like he did not want to draw attention. Inside the market, the air was thick with voices and the smell of fresh bread. People stopped talking when they saw Clara and Ethan together. Some smiled politely. Others did not. Clara felt her chest tighten again. Ethan noticed.
You don't have to be here,
She whispered. At one of the stalls, an older man who had known Clara since she was a child looked at her kindly. You've grown strong, he said, not just in your arms, in your spirit. Clara blinked, surprised. Thank you. The words meant more than he could know. As they left the market, a young boy ran past them, laughing. Clara watched him and smiled. I used to be like that, she said. Before I learned how heavy the world could feel. Ethan smiled. Maybe you can learn how light it can be again. In the afternoon, they walked toward the hills. The town faded behind them. The air felt freer. Ethan told Clara about a place he once stayed near a river, where the water shined like glass in the sun. Clara told him about the hidden spot behind her family's farm, where she used to sit and talk to the birds when she was young. They laughed more now. The space between them felt smaller. But as the sun began to fall, Clara's face grew serious again. I can't just leave everything, she said. My mother, my home, they matter to me. Ethan nodded. I wouldn't expect you to. She looked at him. But I can't keep living like nothing has changed either. They reached the same road where they had parted the night before. The sky was painted in soft colors. Maybe you don't have to choose today, Ethan said. Maybe you just take one step at a time. Clara thought about that. That evening, Clara sat with her mother on the porch. The sound of crickets filled the air.
You've been different today, her mother said.
Clara took a deep breath. I met someone who made me think about my life in a new way. Her mother smiled gently. That can be a gift. Or a challenge. Sometimes both. I don't want to hurt anyone, Clara said. You don't have to, her mother replied. But you don't have to hurt yourself either. The words stayed with Clara long after her mother went inside. She walked down the road toward the hills. Ethan was there, sitting by a small fire. I thought you might come, he said. I didn't know where else to put my thoughts, Clara replied. They sat together, watching the flames move.
The town will keep talking, Clara said. I can feel it. Ethan nodded.
They will, but they'll also keep living their lives, just like you should keep living yours. Clara stared into the fire. I'm scared. So am I, Ethan admitted. Every time I stop somewhere, I'm scared it might be the place I finally belong. Or the place I'll have to leave. Clara looked at him. What if you didn't have to leave this time? Ethan's breath caught for a moment. What if you didn't have to stay? They both smiled at the strange balance of the words. The fire crackled softly between them. Clara stood up and looked back toward the town. The lights were small and far away now. I don't know what my future looks like, she said. But I know I don't want it to be decided by whispers. Ethan stood too. Then don't let it be. They walked back toward the road, side by side. When they reached the place where their paths could split, Clara stopped. She turned to him. Promise me something, she said. What's that? Ethan asked. Don't disappear without saying goodbye? Ethan smiled. I promise. She nodded. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I know I don't want to forget this feeling. What feeling? He asked. Feeling like my life is my own, she replied. Ethan tipped his hat slightly. That's a good feeling to hold on to. They parted again, but this time the space between them did not feel like distance. It felt like a thread, thin but strong, connecting two lives that were slowly, carefully starting to change. As Clara walked back home, she did not feel as heavy as before. The town was still the same. The whispers were still there. But inside her, something was growing. Not fear, not doubt. The next morning, Clara woke before the sun. The house was quiet, and even the old floorboards seemed to hold their breath as she moved through the small rooms. She washed her face with cool water and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes looked tired, but there was something else there too. A spark she did not remember seeing before. Outside, the sky was painted in soft colors. The world felt new, like it was waiting for her to decide what to do with it. Her mother was already in the kitchen, stirring a pot on the small stove.
"You're up early," her mother said.
"I couldn't sleep," Clara replied. "My thoughts were too loud." Her mother smiled gently. "Big choices often do that." Clara sat at the table and wrapped her hands around a warm cup. "Do you ever regret staying here?" she asked quietly. Her mother paused, then shook her head. "No, this place gave me a life, a family, and you, but that doesn't mean it has to give you the same path." Clara felt her chest tighten. "I don't want to leave you behind." Her mother reached across the table and held her hand. "You wouldn't be leaving me behind. You'd be carrying me with you, in your heart." The words settled deep inside Clara. Later that morning, Clara walked through the town. She wanted to see it clearly, maybe for the last time in the same way. The buildings were small and worn, but they held years of memories. The place where she learned to read, the corner where her father used to wait for her after work, the fence where she used to sit and watch the clouds. Some people nodded at her. Some looked away. A few smiled, small and unsure. She saw the older man from the market sweeping the front of his shop. "Morning, Clara," he said. "Morning," she replied. He studied her for a moment. "You look like someone standing at a door." She smiled softly. "It feels like that." "Well," he said, "doors can be scary, but they can also lead to good rooms." She thanked him and kept walking. At the edge of town, she saw Ethan near his horse, checking the straps on his saddle. He looked up when he heard her steps.
"Good morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied.
They stood there, both unsure of what to say first. "I was thinking about what you said last night," Clara began. "About not letting whispers decide my future." Ethan nodded. "And I was thinking about what you said. About not wanting to forget this feeling." Clara took a deep breath. "I don't want to make a choice out of fear.
I want to make it out of hope. I want to make it out of hope."
Ethan smiled. "That's a good place to start." They walked together along the dirt road, past the fields and toward the hills. The air was cool, and the smell of grass filled their lungs. Clara told Ethan about her talk with her mother, about the way her mother had held her hand and told her that leaving did not mean forgetting. Ethan listened closely.
"She sounds like a strong woman." "She is," Clara said. "She had to be." They reached a small rise where they could see both the town and the wide land beyond.
The town looked small from up here, like a cluster of tiny shapes in a big world. "This is where I always come when I need to think," Ethan said. "You can see both where you've been and where you could go." Clara sat down in the grass. It makes everything feel lighter. Ethan sat beside her. They talked about small dreams. Clara said she wanted to see a river so wide she could not see the other side. Ethan said he wanted to build something that would stay in one place, even if he did not. "You don't sound like someone who wants to keep running," Clara said. Ethan laughed softly. "Maybe I've been running from the wrong thing." They sat in silence for a while, just watching the clouds move. Later that day, Clara returned home. She packed a small bag,
Not to leave forever.
just to be ready. The act of packing made her hands shake, but it also made her feel brave. Her mother watched from the doorway. "You don't have to go today," her mother said. "I know," Clara replied. "I just want to know I could." Her mother nodded. Sometimes knowing you can is enough to change how you stand. That afternoon, the town held a small gathering near the same field where the wedding had been planned. It was meant to be a simple meal, a way to bring people together again. Clara almost did not go, but something inside her told her she should. She walked into the field with her shoulders back. People turned to look, but she did not stop. Ethan was there too, standing near the edge. He caught her eye and gave a small nod. Clara joined a group near one of the tables. A woman she had known for years stepped forward. "I'm sorry for what I said the other day," the woman said quietly. "I didn't understand." Clara took a moment, then nodded. "I didn't understand myself either." They shared a small smile. The older man from the shop raised a cup. "To new starts," he said. People lifted their cups and glasses. The words floated through the air like a gentle promise. Clara felt something shift. Not everyone would change. Not everyone would understand. But some would. As the sun began to set, Clara walked away from the gathering. Ethan followed.
You handled that well,
He said. It wasn't easy, she admitted, but it felt right. They walked toward the hills again. The sky was painted in deep orange and purple. "Ethan," Clara said, stopping on the path, "I need to say something." He turned to face her. "I don't know where this road leads," she said. "I don't know if I'll stay here or go with you or find something else. But I know I don't want to pretend anymore. I don't want to be the person everyone else expects me to be." Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. "You don't have to be." Clara smiled.
You make it sound simple. Simple doesn't always mean easy, he replied. They both laughed softly.
The wind picked up, moving through the grass. "I was going to leave tomorrow," Ethan said. "That was my plan." Clara's heart jumped. "And now?" "And now," he said, "I'm not so sure." She took a step closer. "You don't have to change your life because of me." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not. I'm thinking about changing it because of myself. You just helped me see something." "What did I help you see?" she asked. "That staying can be just as brave as leaving." They stood close, not touching, but feeling the space between them. "I'm scared," Clara admitted again. Ethan nodded. "So am I. But I think that means we're doing something that matters." They walked back toward the town slowly. The lights in the houses were coming on one by one. When they reached the road where their paths met, they stopped. "Tomorrow," Clara said. "Let's meet here again." Ethan smiled. "I'd like that." They parted for the night, but this time, the goodbye felt different. It felt like a pause, not an ending. Clara went home and sat on her bed, looking at the small bag she had packed. She did not open it. She did not close it. She just let it sit there like a question waiting for an answer. Her mother knocked on the door. "You okay?" she asked. Clara nodded. "I think I am. For the first time in a long time." Her mother smiled and left her alone. Clara lay back and stared at the ceiling. The town sounds drifted through the window. A dog barking. A door closing. Soft laughter in the distance. Her life had not changed yet. But she had. Somewhere between the barn, the creek, the hills and the road, she had found something inside herself. Not a plan, not a promise, but a quiet strength. And as she closed her eyes, Clara felt ready to face tomorrow. Whatever it might bring. The morning arrived with a soft breeze that carried the smell of fresh grass and warm earth. Clara woke before the sun again, but this time her thoughts felt calmer. The questions were still there, but they did not press on her chest like a heavy weight. They waited, patient and open, like a road that did not rush her to choose a direction. She sat up in bed and looked at the small bag near the door. It was still there, just as she had left it. She smiled at it, not as a sign of leaving, but as a sign of courage. Her mother was already outside, hanging clothes on the line. Clara joined her, and they worked side by side in quiet. "You're meeting him today," her mother said gently, without turning around.
Yes, Clara replied. Her mother nodded.
"Whatever you decide, I want you to remember something. You have always been strong. But strength is not only in what you carry, it's also in what you allow yourself to feel." Clara felt tears rise, but she did not wipe them away. She let them be part of the moment. "I love you," she said. Her mother smiled. "I know." Clara walked down the road toward the place where she and Ethan had agreed to meet. The sky was clear, and the sun was climbing higher, warming her face. Each step felt like a promise she was making to herself. Ethan was already there, leaning against the fence, his horse nearby. He looked up when he saw her. "I was starting to think the road had stolen you," he said with a small smile. Clara laughed. "Not yet." They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. The air felt different today, full of something new.
"Did you sleep?" Ethan asked. "A little," she replied.
"Enough." They walked together toward the hills, like they had the day before. The path felt familiar now, like it belonged to them. "I was thinking last night," Ethan said, "about what it would be like to stop moving for a while." Clara looked at him.
"What did you think?" "I thought it would be scary," he admitted, "but also peaceful." Clara nodded.
"I've been thinking about what it would be like to move, even just a little." They smiled at the way their thoughts met in the middle. They reached the rise where they could see the land stretch out in all directions. The wind moved through the grass, and the sky felt wide and open. Ethan sat down, and Clara joined him. "I don't have a big plan," Ethan said. "I don't have a place waiting for me, just the road." Clara took a deep breath. "I don't have a map either, just a feeling that I don't want to stand still in the same way anymore." They sat quietly, letting the words settle. "I don't want to pull you away from your life," Ethan said, "and I don't want you to feel like you have to follow me." Clara looked at him. "I don't want to feel like I have to stay just because it's what everyone expects." They both laughed softly. The wind grew stronger for a moment, then calmed again. "Maybe," Ethan said, "we don't have to decide everything today." Clara smiled.
You've said that before, and it's still true, he replied.
They talked about simple things, about the seasons, about the way the land changed color through the year, about building something small like a fence or a garden just to see it grow. Ethan told her about a quiet place near a bend in a river where he once stayed for a few weeks. Clara listened, imagining the water and the trees. "I'd like to see that," she said. "You could," he replied, "if you wanted." The words hung in the air, gentle and open. Later they walked back toward the town. The sound of a bell rang from the church, calling people to gather. Clara felt her heart beat faster. "It feels like the town is always calling me back," she said. Ethan nodded. "Ow! Maybe it just wants to know who you are now." They joined the crowd for a small morning meeting. People talked about repairs to the road and helping a neighbor with a broken roof. Clara listened, then spoke up. "I can help with the roof," she said. Several people looked surprised, then nodded. The work took most of the morning. Our desk Clara climbed, lifted, and worked alongside others. Ethan helped too, passing boards and tools. The sun grew hot and sweat ran down their faces, but they kept going. At one point, the woman who had once spoken sharply to Clara handed her a cup of water. "Thank you," Clara said. "You work hard," the woman replied. "Always have." It was not a full apology, but it was something. When the roof was finished, people clapped and laughed. The mood felt lighter. Clara looked around and realized something. The town was not just whispers and stares. It was also hands that helped and voices that thanked. He walked away with Ethan feeling tired but calm. "Seeing you here," Ethan said, "I can tell this place matters to you." "It does," Clara replied. "But so does what I'm becoming." They reached the road where the dirt path met the open land. Ethan stopped. "I'm going to ride out tomorrow," he said. "Just for a while." "I need to think." Clara felt a small ache in her chest, but she nodded. "I understand." He looked at her. "You could come. Just for a short time. See the river I told you about? You don't have to decide anything beyond that." Clara looked back toward the town. She thought about her mother, the small house, the memories. Then she looked at the wide land, the hills, the sky. She took a deep breath. "I'll come," she said, "just to see." Ethan smiled, wide and warm. They walked back to her house together. Clara told her mother about the river, about the ride, about not knowing what would come next. Her mother listened, then nodded. "Go," she said. "See the world. You can always come home." Clara hugged her tightly. That night, Clara packed her small bag. This time, she added a few more things, not because she was leaving forever, but because she was ready to take a step. The stars were bright when she walked outside. Ethan was waiting with his horse. "Ready?" he asked. "I think so," she replied. They walked to the edge of town. The road stretched out in front of them, quiet and open. Clara stopped and looked back one last time. The town lights glowed softly in the dark. "I'm not saying goodbye," she said. "I'm just saying see you later." Ethan nodded. "That's a good way to say it." They turned toward the road. The night air was cool, and the sound of their steps was steady and calm. Clara did not know what the next day would bring, or the next town, or the next choice, but she knew this. She was not running away. She was walking towards something that felt like her own life. And as she and Ethan moved forward under the wide open sky, Clara felt the quiet strength inside her grow into something even brighter. Not a promise, not a plan,